This is the Tilta Compact NATO Top Handle, and its model number is TA-QRTH7-B. The last letter B stands for black, so if you get this handle in a different color, for example titanium gray, then the last letter will be TG for titanium gray instead of B for black. It weighs 300 grams, so it's an average weight top handle. On the top front part you have a cold shoe with a 1/4 inch 20 thread inside it. So this is what Tilta typically does, so all the Tilta peripherals will work with this. But if you're not using Tilta equipment, then you can use the cold shoe just like a normal cold shoe. And then you have a 1/4 inch 20 with locator pins and 3 1/8 inch 16 with locating pins and another 1/4 inch 20 with locating pins here. On the back of the handle here you have a 1/4 inch 20 with 4 locating pinholes, and on the front of the handle you have a 3 1/8 inch 16 with 4 locating pinholes. So on the back here is 1/4 inch 20 with pinholes, and on the front is 3 1/8 inch 16 with pinholes. And here you have the lock, so this connects to a cage with a NATO rail. So any cage that you have or any peripherals that have NATO rail should take this. The lever to tighten this only rotates this much. So if you need to rotate more in order to tighten it, then you have to lift it up, move it, and tighten it again. So you move it in this direction to lock it, and then lift it up. I don't know if you can see this. And then move it back, and then you tighten it again, and then you pull it up, and then you tighten it this way. And all this does is it essentially pushes this part here to grab onto the NATO rail. So this is a decent handle, but there's a few things you have to be aware of. So on the front you have the 3 1/8 inch 16, which you can use to typically mount the monitor here. And most of the peripherals that come from mounting monitors, they take the 3 1/8 inch 16 with the arri locating holes. But on the back here is 1/4 inch 20. So if you were to attach the handle in this direction and you want your monitor to be attached on this side, then that's a 1/4 inch 20 with pinhole. So you need to find the right connection to be able to connect the monitor to this. Another thing is the cold shoe here, it doesn't have one of those anti-slide buttons. So some of the cold shoes, they have this ledge that comes up and stops anything from falling out. So let me just show this other handle that has this. So this is also a Tilta handle, but here you can see it has this pin which stops anything from moving out, and then you can pull the pin down using this lever here. So you use this lever and you pull the pin down, and then you can take out whatever is in there. So this handle doesn't have that. It just has the cold shoe with a 1/4 inch 20 inside it. And also this lever here, it's a little bit difficult to keep twisting it, because essentially it's like a screw. You have to twist it to tighten it, and then lift it up, move it back, and then twist it again. So it's almost like screwing a screw, as opposed to a NATO rail, which is supposed to be simple to operate. So some of the NATO rails, you just have this lever which goes in, instead of going in this direction, it goes in this direction. So horizontal with the NATO rail itself. So you would pull it all the way from this side, all the way down to this side, and that would tighten it. Whereas with this one, you have to tighten it in this direction, and that's more difficult because if it's sitting against the cage here, it's difficult to move your fingers, whereas the ones that pull in this direction, it's easier to move. So those are the 3 things to be aware of. This is a little bit fiddly to work with, the lever here, and you have a 3 1/8 inch 16 here on the front, but on the back you have 1/4 inch 20. So be aware of that if you want to mount something which is 3 1/8 inch 16. And the cold shoe doesn't have an anti-slid button. So those are the only 3 things you need to be aware of in terms of this handle to make sure that it works for you. And on the lower part you have a different material. I don't know what this is, whether it's silicone, but it's been screwed onto the metal part. So it's a different material that's supposed to, I guess, be more comfortable for the hand, or maybe stop your hand from sweating and making the top handle slippery. So one more thing to consider when you buy top handles in general is the distance between the part where it connects to the cage and the handle. So some handles have a really low profile, such as I think they're Nitsi handles. They have quite a low space here. So you need to be aware that you can still fit your fingers, but also the angle of view changes. So the taller this part is, then the lower the camera will be, and as a result, you get a different angle. So for example, if you're, let's just say, filming skateboarding, you might want this handle to be as tall as possible to get a lower angle of view. But if you're filming someone's face, you don't really want to film them upwards from a really low angle. So you want this to be as short as possible. And aside from the handle itself, another thing is also cameras. So cameras that have viewfinders, they will have an increased height between the position of the lens and the top part of your hand. So the cameras typically sit lower. Whereas cameras that don't have a viewfinder, such as the Sony FX3 or the Sigma camera, they will sit further up. So the angle of view to your subject will be slightly higher up. So it depends what you're going for, but it will make around 5 to 10 centimeters difference based on the type of handle you buy and also whether your camera has a viewfinder or not. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions or if you want me to demonstrate something with this handle or compare it to another handle.